Hello, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Zach, and I'm a lifelong reader and lover of all things science fiction, fantasy, comics, manga, personal development, and everything in between. Today, I just wanted to share my thoughts and a quick review of James Islington's An Echo of Things to Come. And this is part 2 of the Licanius Trilogy. So I just finished this a little bit ago, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it's still fresh in my mind. And I'm just starting book 3. So before I get too far into book 3, I got to share my thoughts on book 2. So book 1 of the Licanius Trilogy, I really enjoyed. I thought it was a cool concept that it's kind of mixing time travel with fantasy and kind of playing with some of the normal tropes and things we see in like the big name fantasy, which of course that come to mind, like Wheel of Time. So it has those tropes still of hero's journey, and our young protagonist comes into some sort of power and they go off on an adventure against an impending evil. And that was kind of like my thoughts on book 1, that I liked it, but it was similar and felt familiar, but still different. And I like the different part, that it emphasized a bit more on the plot and the action versus character development, which is probably my least favorite part of Wheel of Time, if I'm being honest. That sometimes it can just feel like nothing's happening, that they're just in an inn, right? So if you've read Wheel of Time or seen the Amazon adaptation, it's a bit slow. We'll give it that. Still a good series, still on book 4, on my way to book 5, but Licanius Trilogy, it's just different. It hits different, a little more plot focused. And now that I'm on book 2 and finished book 2, I felt like I was slipping back into Wheel of Time territory. So this being a middle book in a trilogy, I feel it really did have middle book syndrome. And those are kind of my negative thoughts on this series so far, where we are finishing up book 2, is that this is middle book syndrome in a trilogy where not a lot of stuff really happened. This, if you had to describe it like in a single sentence, it was moving the chess pieces into play for the finale. At least that's what it felt like right now, because there was no really big ending. And that's maybe why, finishing the book and trying to give thoughts on it, I don't have strong feelings. That I had strong feelings at the end of book 1 because there's so much going on. You learn about this new world dumped into this time travel kind of aspect of Davian and all the characters. And then the end, the reveal that Caden is Arcane Devade. And it's some weird whole thing that's happening with time travel and immortals and the Venerate. And then book 2, it just really goes into more of the characters. So if you didn't get enough of that, maybe book 1, as I said, maybe that was why I like book 1, that maybe you'll like book 2 and start to warm up to the series, because this book 2 was a lot about the characters. It was a lot about character development, what's going on, kind of the ramifications after the big siege at the end of book 1, where they fight the blind and everyone's kind of coming into their powers. So this is going further into Davian, coming into his powers, learning about his powers. Caden is exploring his memories and who he is and who he was, and kind of watching Severance, how that kind of blends together of the two personalities that are vying for control. Not really that vying for control, but that are that Caden is just dealing with, that his past self that he intentionally forgot, and then he's slowly unlocking and kind of trying to reconcile. This is what I'm thinking of Severance, that reintegration of his past self and his current self of Caden. And Weir's off doing his thing where he's coming to his role of the North Warden. And so that's maybe why I'm feeling this is like kind of a mid-tier book, because it's the mid of a trilogy, that it just really setting up a lot of the characters and didn't have that big impact, emotional impact on me that the first book had, where I was really drawn into the world, the magic system, all the events that were happening. It was just new, and so much plot. And this one kind of slowed things down as we got more in depth into characters and we're learning about the characters. So if that's your cup of tea, you're going to really like book 2, and it may redeem the series for you. But it was a bit of a lull for me. But to talk about the positives, it's not so much a lull that I'm giving up. I've started book 3. There were some good points. We did learn a lot about the world. We learned more about the Veil and what that is. So that was some intriguing stuff. There's some, trying not to be too spoilery, but there's some weird stuff going on with the Veil, and Is it the past? Is it the future? What's on the other side? The Shining Lands, the Shadowlands? It's not really revealed yet, so it's really building up to this finale that book 3 is going to be. So it is kind of building the hype, and I like that it's building the anticipation. It's giving us a little more time with the characters. And there's a lot of cool ideas that are still just being fleshed out, like the Oathstone, and kind of really more a deep dive into the world that Islington is building here with the Licanius Trilogy. So I guess this review is mostly negative because there were a lot of not really high points that I can point to, like, oh, that was the peak moment of this book, or really memorable moments at all. I can't even, a week out from finishing, I can't really pull out that many things that happened in the middle of the book. The middle of the book was very plot heavy, character development heavy, whereas the ending did kind of reach a crescendo when they traveled to the Vale and a couple things happened, but it didn't have the time travel element as deep. Again, this is a positive, negative, how you look at it, that there was time travel and we're getting hints of the mystery that we're beginning to unravel of what's the real past, what is the sacred timeline, and how does it all play together. And we're giving glimpses of characters kind of flowing out and what's real and what's not. But it wasn't as clear cut as the first book when Davian goes to the city outside time, which was blew my mind. I love that concept. But here we're not have those big exposition pieces. So yeah, I guess that's how I'm feeling at the book. Is it's kind of a mid book. It's hard to put too many pros. If do you have any other pros? The deep world building, the time magic, and philosophical. It's a lot of philosophical time stuff, not necessarily big action set pieces. So if I had to give it a rating, I hate to give it a rating that's low, but it didn't really stand out to me. So it's a weird place to be, that I want to love the series overall because I loved book 1, and book 2 was really a 3 out of 5 for me because it was too much plot, too much character driven, even though it did set up book 3, and book 3 is starting to, as I'm only 3 chapters in right now, but it's starting to piece things together. And I read on the reviews that it does have a great conclusion. So I think in retrospect, I'd probably give this maybe a higher rating once I finish book 3, but reviewing it on its own without having finished book 3 yet, it's still a 3 out of 5 for me because it just didn't hit me emotionally, but it's still good enough to continue the series. So I'm still reading book 3. I really want to see this through, and I'm excited to see where this is all going with Caden, Davian, and the rest of the crew of the Licanius Trilogy. So thanks for viewing this video and just sharing my thoughts and a little bit of rambling of the few of the pros and maybe a little more of the cons of Licanius Trilogy Book 2 and Echo of Things to Come. Thanks for watching and have a great day.